Welcome to another episode of Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. And let's not waste no time. Let's get right to it. So, on November 22nd, 1990, early in the 1990-91 season, there was a fight that took place between Xavier McDaniel and Dale Ellis, okay? Now, I've touched on this fight briefly, but I've never really gone into detail about what it was about. Okay, so Xavier McDaniel was the tough guy of that team. He didn't mess with X-Men. Xavier McDaniel was one of those guys who held you accountable, or he would get in, or he would get after you for not doing your job, for not being accountable. But while X-Men was the person nobody messed with on the Seattle Supersonics, he could also be a mentor to rookies like Sean Kemp coming in to the league in 1990. Xavier McDaniel took Sean Kemp under his wing and taught Sean Kemp not only about the game of basketball but the game of life. Okay, and I'm just guessing other people like Derek McKee took him under his wing. So Xavier McDaniel was a tough guy, but he was also a mentor to guys like Sean Kemp specifically. So Dale Ellis was had a foot injury, okay, and he was getting ready to return from his foot injury. And Dale Ellis came to practice one day not prepared to practice. And Xavier McDaniel got really upset at Dale Ellis, okay? And I said Xavier McDaniel held players accountable, right? Which resulted in a fight with Dale Ellis. He was about to make his season debut. They got into an argument, which extended beyond the practice. It was reported that Dale Ellis threw a cell phone at Xavier McDaniel. You know, the brick cell phones that you had back in 1990s, the early 90s, those brick cell phones. So Dale Ellis threw one of those at Sean Kemp, and the fight extended beyond the practice court into the parking lot, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, and the fight was so bad that police were called. Okay, there were 5 people that attempted to break up the fight. However, there were no charges, there were no arrests. Dale Ellis hurt his face as a result from a blow from McDaniel. Ellis hurt his face. And so, ironically, before the fight happened, Gary Payton, who was in his first year, they were going up the elevator to see Bob Whitsitt, the Sonics GM. Ironic. Wasn't Bob Whitsitt the GM of the Jailblazers? Yeah, that Bob Whitsitt. Okay, so they were going up the elevator to see Bob Whitsitt. So Gary Payton and Sean Kemp never saw the fight. They just heard about it. Okay. But in the aftermath, Dale Ellis was suspended for 5 games. Xavier McDaniel didn't miss any games. Then a flurry of trades happened. Xavier McDaniel was traded to the Suns for no, scratch that. Yeah. Xavier McDaniel was traded to the Suns for Eddie Johnson. Right. Okay. So Xavier McDaniel was traded to the Suns for Eddie Johnson. Then Dale Ellis was traded to the Bucks for Ricky Pierce. And then somebody who had nothing to do with the fight, Odin Polandes, was traded to the Clippers for Benoit Benjamin. Okay. So it was said at the time, Xavier McDaniel said at that time, things happen when teams are struggling, okay? So at the time of the fight, the Sonics were 4-4, okay? And they lost their next game to the Utah Jazz, 97-96. And Bob Whitsitt had a quote. He said, "We talked about the people involved. We talked to the people involved and the people who saw it. Based on the facts we gathered, we made what we deemed was the appropriate disciplinary action. We hope to have Dale back in uniform when he comes off the injured list." Okay. So Dale Ellis had worn out his welcome in Seattle, okay? And not only had he worn out his welcome in Seattle, he wasn't very popular among teammates, okay? In January of 1990, he had a DUI car crash, left him with broken ribs and a collapsed lung. Then there was a domestic disturbance he had in 1989. And then in 1988, he was sued twice for vehicular incidents, okay? So he was not well liked among teammates. So I'm just guessing he wasn't well liked. I know he wasn't well liked by Xavier McDaniel. He wasn't well liked by Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Quentin Daly, Michael Cage, Derek McKee. So I don't think he was a popular player. He wasn't a popular player, okay? So, and it was said teammates didn't appreciate the way he carried himself off the court because that carried over into his on-court performance, okay? Which is probably why the Sonics traded him mid-season, right after the All-Star break, to the Milwaukee Bucks for Ricky Pierce, who was an Eastern Conference All-Star that year. So Ricky Pierce is an Eastern Conference All-Star in the 1991 All-Star game. Then immediately he gets traded to the Seattle Supersonics right after the All-Star game. So there you go. All right. That's it. And that's all for Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I'm out of here. Peace out. God bless y'all. See y'all on the next one.